Hey there, I'm John, a 34-year-old guy from the suburbs of Boston, and I've got a story to tell you that's been eating me alive. I'm honestly losing my mind here, and I could really use some outside perspective, so bear with me as I spill it all out. This whole mess started way back, and to make sense of it, I need to take you through the background first. It's a wild ride, betrayal, family drama, and a twist that left everyone speechless, so let's dive in. I grew up in a pretty average suburban house just outside Boston, in a town called Quincy. My parents weren't terrible or anything, at least not at first. They both had decent jobs. Dad worked as a mechanic in Dorchester, and Mom was a receptionist at a dental office in Braintree. We'd go on family vacations to Cape Cod every summer, have cookouts in the backyard with burgers sizzling on the grill. Normal stuff, you know? For 8 years I was their only kid, and life was good. I'd ride my bike around the neighborhood, build forts in the woods behind our house, and dream about being an astronaut or something cool like that. Then my brother Mason was born, and everything changed. Look, I've spent enough time in therapy to know this isn't just some older sibling jealousy thing. The day Mason came home from the hospital, it was like someone flipped a switch, and I became invisible in my own house. I don't mean that in some angsty teenager way, I mean my parents literally forgot about me half the time. Take 6th grade for example. I spent 3 months building this insane solar system model for the science fair. I made every planet from scratch, papier-mâché, paint, the works, and even programmed a little Arduino to make them orbit a light bulb sun. The judges at Quincy Middle School were blown away and gave me a special award for the math I'd worked out. I was so proud, clutching that certificate, waiting for my parents to cheer me on. They didn't show up. Why? Mason had t-ball practice in Weymouth. Not a game, just practice. When I got home, my trophy sat unopened on the mantel for a week before disappearing into the basement. Meanwhile, the living room walls were plastered with Mason's participation ribbons, and Mom still has his kindergarten macaroni art framed in the kitchen. She couldn't tell you where my high school diploma is. Dad was even worse. In high school I was team captain for this huge robotics competition at night. We'd spent months building a bot that could sort objects by color. He promised he'd be there, even marked it on the fridge calendar. The morning of the competition, Mason decided he wanted to toss a baseball around in the backyard. Guess who didn't show up at mitt? I stood there watching other kids' parents cheer, feeling like I didn't matter. Then there was the car thing. That really showed their true colors. When I turned 16, I got 3 part-time jobs to save up for college, shelving books at the Quincy Library in the mornings, tutoring math after school, and fixing computers at a repair shop in Braintree on weekends. My parents said it was about teaching me responsibility. When Mason turned 16, they bought him a brand new Honda Civic to boost his confidence. He totaled it 3 months later, swerving into a ditch and hanging him after a party. They bought him another one, no questions asked. Mason was a nightmare kid, the kind other parents whispered about. He'd throw massive tantrums if he didn't get his way, smashing toys or punching holes in the drywall. As a teenager, he'd skip school, scream at our parents, and once got caught stealing from a corner store in Milton. They'd just shrug and say, he's sensitive, or he's expressing himself, or it's just a phase. Anything less than an "ah," and Mom would sigh. Maybe you're spreading yourself too thin, John. If I ever showed frustration, I was being difficult and typesetting Mason. For years I actually believed something was wrong with me, like if I could just be a better son they'd notice me too. I tried so hard to win their approval, but nothing worked. College was my escape. I got into Northeastern University in Boston and started seeing how other families operated. My roommates' parents would call just to check in. My friends' families celebrated all their kids' wins, not just one. It hit me how messed up my situation was. I barely went home except for major holidays, and even then I'd make excuses to leave early. Car trouble, work deadlines, you name it. Dad would lay on the guilt trips saying, Mason really misses his big brother. But Mason only reached out when he needed cash for some half-baked business idea. By junior year, I was killing it academically. 3 papers published in tech journals, straight A's, the works. My department head recommended me for an exchange program at Seoul National University in South Korea, working on a cutting-edge AI project. 6 months abroad, fully funded. I was ecstatic. My parents didn't even notice I was leaving the country until I was already gone. They were too busy with Mason's latest drama. He'd just gotten kicked out of his third community college for not showing up to classes. Those 6 months in Seoul changed everything. No one knew me as Mason's brother or the quiet one. I was just John. I lived in a tiny apartment in Itaewon, ate kimchi jjigae at hole-in-the-wall spots, and worked on AI models that could predict traffic patterns. When the program ended, a startup called wildest offered me a full-time gig post-graduation, crazy good salary, visa sorted, everything. I said yes without a second thought. I graduated top of my class at Northeastern, landed offers from big-name companies like Google and Tesla, and still, my parents skipped my graduation. Why? Mason had an interview at GameStop in Dedham. At that point, I stopped caring. Moving to Seoul full-time was the best decision I ever made. Within 3 years I was leading projects, traveling to conferences in Tokyo and Singapore, living life on my own terms. My parents barely noticed. The few times they called, it was always about Mason. He'd gotten fired again, borrowed money from sketchy people, claimed some girl was pregnant, a lie, he just wouldn't leave her alone, and she got a restraining order. Then I met Rachel. It was this random day at a tiny coffee shop in Hongdae, Seoul. My credit card wouldn't work, some glitch with the bank, and I was fumbling through broken Korean to explain. She stepped in, all calm and confident, translating for me and saving me from total embarrassment. Turns out she was teaching English at an international school nearby. We got talking, and man, she was different. Rachel actually listened when I geeked out about code, asked smart questions, and got excited with me instead of zoning out. She had her own life, her own goals, traveling, writing, teaching, not looking for someone to fix her problems, just a partner to share the ride. We dated for 2 years, and I proposed on a whim during a weekend trip to Busan, right on Hongdae Beach at sunset. She said yes, and our wedding was small but perfect. Just friends and her family at a little venue in Gangnam. My parents didn't come. Mason had gotten into some mess with credit card fraud, and they needed to be there for him. Honestly, I was relieved they stayed away. Life was good, really good. We traveled Asia on weekends, street food in Taipei, temples in Kyoto, tried weird dishes like live octopus, and learned together. I thought I'd finally escaped the family drama for good. Then wildest announced they were opening a new office in Boston and wanted me to head it up. Triple my salary, full relocation package, the works. Rachel was thrilled, calling it our next big adventure. I wasn't so sure. Going back to Boston felt like stepping into a minefield. But I figured enough time had passed. Maybe things could be different. We landed in Boston, settled into a nice place in Cambridge, and things were coming together. Then Mom texted, asking if we'd arrived safely. For a second I thought she actually cared, until she followed up with, "Oh, by the way, Mason's back in Boston too." His business ventures in California had crashed and burned. By ventures I mean he'd conned some girl's rich parents in San Diego into funding a fake tech startup. A shitty website that never launched. He blew their money on a leased BMW and fancy dinners at La Jolla hotspots. When they threatened to sue, he bolted back home. Then Mason started showing up everywhere. First it was texts, "Hey, big bro, heard you're back in town." Then emails about reconnecting, claiming therapy had changed him, that he wanted to be a real brother. I ignored him for weeks, but he found out where I worked, wildest's office in Kendall Square, and showed up in the lobby, all smiles and apologies. Rachel thought I should give him a chance. She didn't know the full history. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met for coffee at a place in Somerville. He spun this whole tale about growth, therapy, self-reflection, wanting to make amends. He asked about my life, my job, even Rachel. It felt nice, I guess. We started hanging out more. He'd come over for dinner in Cambridge, charm Rachel with wild stories, even help me fix up the backyard. My parents were over the moon, calling from Quincy to say, "See? He's turned over a new leaf." But something felt off. He'd ask weird questions. "How much do you make now, John?" Or, "You must have some solid savings, huh?" I brushed it off as curiosity. Then it all fell apart. I came home early from a work trip to New York, supposed to be gone another day, but the client meeting wrapped up fast. Rachel wasn't expecting me. I walked into our Cambridge apartment and found her and Mason on the couch, way too close, hands tangled, lips inches apart. They jumped apart when I opened the door, but their faces said it all. My stomach dropped. I confronted them right there. Rachel burst into tears, claiming it was a mistake. that Mason had been comforting her because I was always working late. Mason played innocent, saying he was just being a good brother-in-law. I was furious but so confused. Were they gaslighting me? I didn't know what to believe. Rachel begged me to forgive her and Mason swore it was nothing. I stormed out, slept at a hotel in Back Bay, and tried to process it. Then my parents got involved. They called the next day saying I was overreacting. Mason was just supporting Rachel, Mom said. You're always so busy, John. She needs someone to talk to. Dad chimed in. Grateful? I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Was I the bad guy here? They'd spent my whole life favoring Mason, making me feel like my feelings didn't matter. Classic gaslighting. And now this? It got worse. Rachel and Mason started spending more time together, claiming they were just friends. My parents encouraged it, saying, family sticks together. Then one day Rachel dropped the bomb. She was pregnant. I froze. I'd been away for work in Chicago during the conception window. The math didn't add up. When I questioned her, she broke down, sobbing, and admitted the baby was Mason's. I was gutted, my wife and my brother. I confronted my parents, expecting at least some sympathy. Instead, they doubled down. It's still family, Mom said, her voice all soft like she was soothing a kid. Think of the baby, Dad added. Mason's always looked up to you. You can help raise the child together. Mason just sat there smirking and said, come on bro, we're family, let's make this work. Support their new family? Raise my brother's kid with my cheating wife? After everything they'd put me through, that was it, the final straw. For years I'd swallowed my anger, played the good son, let them walk all over me because of some messed up trauma bond I didn't even see. But this was too much. I was done being their doormat, done with the learned helplessness they drilled into me. I decided to take control. First, I filed for divorce. Rachel begged me to reconsider, crying in our kitchen, but I was checked out. I moved into a temporary place in Somerville and started digging into Mason's past. I'd always known he was shady, but I needed proof. Using my tech skills, I'm a senior AI engineer after all. I hacked into his digital trail, bank statements, emails, old social media posts. What I found was gold. Mason had been running scams for years, fake startups, embezzling funds, even using my name to open credit lines back in 2018. I pulled records showing he'd siphoned money from our parents too, claiming it was for investments. And Rachel? She wasn't innocent. I found texts between them plotting to lean on my income once the baby came, proof they saw me as a cash cow. I didn't confront them right away. I played along, told them I'd think about supporting them, let them think I was still the pushover they knew. Meanwhile, I gathered more. Audio recordings from my phone during their apologies, screenshots, financial docs. I hired a PI in Boston to tail Mason, and he caught him bragging to a buddy at a bar in Southie about teaching me a lesson by sleeping with Rachel. Then I set the stage. I invited my family to a dinner at my old Cambridge place, saying I wanted to discuss the future. They showed up, Mom, Dad, Mason, and Rachel, expecting me to cave. The table was set, takeout from a spot in Harvard Square, and they were all smiles, thinking they'd won. I let them eat, chat, get comfortable. Then I dropped the hammer. I stood up, calm as hell, and said, I've got something to show you. I pulled out my laptop, hooked it to the TV, and played the evidence like a damn movie. First, the video of Mason laughing about the affair at that Southie bar. Then the texts between him and Rachel, plotting to milk me dry. Bank records of his fraud, Zarek he'd stolen from our parents alone. Audio of him admitting he'd used my identity. Photos from the PI of him meeting shady guys in Roxbury, probably loan sharks. The room went dead quiet. Mom's fork clattered onto her plate. Dad's face turned gray. Rachel stared at the floor, shaking. Mason tried to jump in, stammering, "That's not real, bro, you faked it." I just pointed to the screen, timestamps, signatures, hard proof. "I'd deny it to the cops," I said. Then I laid out my terms. "I'm divorcing Rachel, papers are filed, I'm cutting all ties with you, Mom, Dad, Mason, done. And I've already sent this to the Boston PD. Mason, you're looking at fraud charges, maybe identity theft too. Good luck." I paused, looked them in the eyes. "You've chosen him over me my whole life, now you can deal with the mess he's made. I'm out." They were speechless, mouths open, no words. Mom tried to call after me as I grabbed my coat, but I didn't look back. I walked out, got in my car, and drove to a new place I'd rented in Portland, Maine. A fresh start, 100 miles from their chaos. Last I heard, Mason's in jail. Cops picked him up a week later on those fraud charges. Rachel's struggling as a single mom in a cramped apartment in Lowell. No cushy life anymore. My parents are drowning in debt from legal fees and Mason's messes, calling me from Quincy begging for help. I don't answer. I've got my own life now. New job, new city, no more guilt trips or narcissists pulling me down. I set boundaries, broke the codependency, and took back my power. And that moment I left them staring at that screen, realizing they'd lost me for good. That's what keeps me going. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh, or did they have it coming?